Hey guys and gals, before we get started showing you how to test and replace the elements in your oven, I just want to say thanks for supporting my channel through the years. And also, I hate to be that guy, but it really does help my channel. Please subscribe if you're getting any benefit out of these videos. Please like this video, comment if you need any help, if you have suggestions for other videos you want me to make. I'm very responsive to comments, so please feel free to reach out to me. So let's get started. Now, one thing I want to mention before we start working on the oven, after you do your test, if you're going to do the timer test, I highly recommend that you go turn the breaker off for your oven. Don't rely on just turning the oven off, because while you're inside there working, you could easily bump up against some of the controls with your shoulder or your arm and turn the oven on, and at a minimum you might get burnt. Worst case, you could potentially even shock yourself. So just go turn the breaker off before you get started. It's a good idea anytime you're working on any electrical appliance. So without further ado, let's talk about how to get started by using the layman's, poor man's timer test to see how your oven's performing.
Okay, so one of the easiest ways to test your oven if you don't have a multimeter is just set your oven's temperature to 450 degrees and then start a timer. You can see I'm fast forwarding through this, but just start a timer and see how long it takes for the oven to get to 450. Typically, it should take 15, no more than 20 minutes. If it takes longer than that, you may have a problem with your heating element. The more accurate way is with a multimeter, and if you don't have a multimeter, you can pick these guys up for 10 or 12 bucks, and they're really easy to learn to use. You're just going to set it to its resistance setting, and then you're going to basically connect to both of the terminals on the heating element. And what you're looking for, you're seeing I'm getting about 20.5 ohms or so. What you're looking for is generally something between 14 and maybe 25 ohms. It really varies based on the wattage of the oven, and you can kind of look that up online. But if you have either, it says infinity or zero or overload, those are issues. So let's get to replacing the top guy. So I'm just going to, this one's just held in with 2 screws at the back, 2 Phillips screws. I'm just going to take those out. And then the front is actually hanging on these little wire hangers, which is pretty common. Try not to drop your screws. But if you have a multimeter, I definitely recommend you go that approach. If not, just set the timer. Or you may also have noticed that it's not heating correctly on the top or bottom, depending on if you're using bake or broil. If you start noticing that, that's a good indication that one of these are bad. And I generally like to replace them in pairs. They're usually not very expensive. So if I'm going to come in here and replace one, I like to replace both. And a lot of times it's almost like you just got a new oven. Everything just magically starts working like it did when you first got it. So once you get those screws out, I'm going to take one of these racks out just to make it a little easier so you can see a little better angle here. They are connected to 2 wires on the back, and usually, almost always, the wires are held in by these little pull off or push on clips. So just pull those off, and you need to, if you're going to test this with your multimeter, it needs to be disconnected from the oven. At least one side, technically. I'd recommend you just pull it out. I mean, it takes an extra 5 seconds. And then just push the connectors back on with your new one. If you have trouble getting these to stay, sometimes they do come loose, especially if you pull them off at an angle. Typically, a pair of pliers, you can squeeze the connector back again and make it just as tight as it was when it was brand new. So get that reconnected, push it back through the insulation on the back, and as far as the top element goes, hang it back on these hangers or these hooks. And then we're just going to replace those 2 screws at the back. And that's about all it takes for the top element. And again, doing this, a lot of times if you're just going to come in here and spend the time, go ahead and replace both, and it'll literally be like you just got a new oven. Now, I do want to warn you, there are some other reasons that your oven may not be heating properly besides the elements, but 99% of the time when an oven is not heating correctly, it is one or both of the elements. It could also be the controller inside, but typically this is the easiest approach. And what I would do is, start by seeing if it's taking too long to preheat. If so, pull these elements out, test them with a multimeter. Like I said, you can get a multimeter for $10. Test it with that, and if you notice one of them is not right, then replace it. Now, as far as the bottom, I have this cover over it. I'm just popping that off with a butter knife. You may or may not have that. Some ovens actually have the bottom element exposed. You don't see that much anymore. But the cover on the bottom is not held in with screws or anything. It's just held in with basically this clip at the back and gravity. So once again, the bottom one is the same as the top. It's got 2 screws at the back, which I'm going to remove. And then in this case, as in most ovens, what you're actually, the very first part you're taking off is a bracket. And that bracket is actually the back part that holds the, the cover I removed. That's what that cover fits in at the back, just so it doesn't slide around or slide out. Same as before, pull it out just a little bit, and then let me lift the camera up so you can get a better angle. And it's got 2 wires on the back side as well. Just remove those. And then if you wanted to, it'd just be a good time to test it. If you're just going to replace it anyway, don't worry about it. I'd also recommend you clean while you got this one out. You'll see that I waited till after I put the new one back in to clean, which does not make sense, but I don't always plan things ahead very well. So push these new clips back on. Again, if they're loose, get a pair of pliers and kind of recrimp them. And then some other ovens have different connectors. Some of them even are hard wired in and you have to cut them. You don't see that very much anymore. All of them have clips now. Same as before, just going to line up the brackets on the holes in the oven and then replace your 2 screws. And again, I'm fast forwarding through this. I didn't want you to have to watch me in real time. So if it looks like I'm going a little faster than you would be going, that's because this video is sped up. I didn't want you to have to watch every little nuance of this, because I do call my channel Quick Fix. I don't want you to have to, spend waste any more time than you have to. You came here because you wanted to, figure out how to test or replace your oven elements, not because you wanted to, watch my hands screw in screws. I just like to be thorough, because I know a lot of people really like the visual aspect of seeing, this detailed step by step, and other people just want to know high level what they're supposed to be doing, and those people have probably already checked out of this video and might even be done replacing their elements by now. So that's about it. We're gonna get these 2 screwed in, and then as I said before, it would have been helpful to have cleaned out the bottom of the oven before, but I don't always plan ahead. And then once these are nice and tight, and once you get all of this complete, I recommend you test your oven. Obviously, you want to see if you've made some improvements, and generally the best way is, again, with the timer approach. Set your oven to 450, measure how long it takes to get the temperature, and hopefully it's improved from before. So last step here, really, again, I'm going to wipe it down, something I probably should have done when it was a little more convenient and I didn't have these little things poking down that can grab you on the hand. Put your cover back on top, and then put your racks back in, and then you're good to go. Thanks for watching, guys and gals. I hope this video helps somebody out there. If you have any questions or need any help, leave a comment below. I do my best to answer every single one of them. But if you're having some trouble, if you don't know what the ohm reading should be or how to use your multimeter, post below. Happy to help. Just include enough information so I can. Again, thanks for watching. See y'all next time.